What if one of the oldest health codes in modern history was also one of the most powerful? Today we dive into the word of wisdom, a revelation given to the prophet Joseph Smith in 1833. Isn't just a list of do's and don'ts. It's a guide to a living healthier, more disciplined, and ultimately a more connected life. Stick with us as we uncover the promises and principles behind Doctrine and Covenants, section 89. Hello, brothers and sisters. How are you doing? I'm hoping you had a wonderful day. I'm hoping that you've had time to spend with our Father in heaven and His Son, Jesus Christ, as this is the most important relationship you can build. Today we are doing one of my favorite sections, Doctrine and Covenants, section 89. Now, when we study the word of wisdom, what comes to your mind that it talks about? You will hear people say it's about moderation. Let me make this clear. While I am no health expert, you will not see anything mentioned about moderation in this. There's a few things that come close, like the use of meat. That's it. The word of wisdom is a guideline that that was given to Joseph Smith early in the church, not as a way of commandment, as it states in verse 2, but a revelation showing forth the order and will of God in the temporal salvation of all saints. It's given with a principle, with a promise that all Latter-day Saints, even the weakest, could follow. Now, in the modern era, while the word of wisdom is one of the oldest religious health codes, and this is not including the kosher laws of the Jewish law of Moses, the what's it called? The Islamic law of health, or the Hindi. This is a modern era. Seventh-day Adventists, Catholic Church, even their health code was created after the Latter-day Saints. But this came at a time when people were wanting to eat healthier and do better. There was a gentleman by the name of Kellogg who had who started encouraging people to eat healthier. I didn't go into deep research into him, but I remember some of the antis had mentioned this. And I'm like, okay, so he was interested in the law of health. No, actually, the reason why the word of wisdom came to be was not because Joseph saw other religious organizations starting to teach a healthier diet. It was because of a plea from his wife. See, during the school of the prophets, the men would be smoking, spitting tobacco, all sorts of stuff. And then Emma and some of the ladies would have to go in afterwards and scrub the floors. So she asked Joseph, what can be done? This is the true reason why the word of wisdom came, because the women were tired of cleaning up after the men. Now, at first, remember, the word of wisdom was not given as a command. It wasn't part of any temple interviews. In fact, that wasn't until later in the 1900s, and I think it was President Grant that made it part of the Temple Recommend Worthy Questions. But let's see what the Word of Wisdom actually talks about and how it can help us to live better, healthier lives. So starting off in verse 4, it says, "In consequences of evil designs which do and will exist in the hearts of conspiring men in the last days, I have warned you and forewarned you by giving you this word of wisdom by revelation." Now, a religious-based, as we talked about earlier, a religious-based diet is nothing new. We have the Jewish law of kosher, and we see the benefits of this with Daniel and his companions when they were first taken into Babylon. The king wanted them to eat their meat so they could be healthier. Well, Daniel gave them a challenge. He said, "No, let us eat of our diet, and after so many days, we'll see who is healthier." So they agreed. They let Daniel and his friends eat the kosher law according to the law of Moses. And after that period, Daniel and his friends were healthier than the diet that the king's men had. This shows the power of a religious diet, because they're not just for restraining people. It's for God's promise to us if we obey it. Now, one of the big controversies about the word of wisdom is drinking alcohol. So verse 5 says that inasmuch as man drinketh wine or strong drink among you, behold, it is not good, neither meet in the sight of your Father, only in assembling yourselves to offer up your sacraments before him. And behold, this should be wine, yea, pure wine of the grape of the vine of your own making. That means it's basically grape juice. Squeezed grape juice. That's what it should be. Later, water is instituted, and we'll actually get to that. Sorry, I had to get some water. So it says it, and again, strong drinks are not for the belly, but for the washing of the bodies. So what's going on here? So in the word of wisdom, it's telling us not to drink alcohol, such as beer, fermented wine, or fermented drinks. Those that are detractors of the church are trying to use the Bible to say that drinking is okay. Well, in the kosher laws, yes, drinking wine is fine. But we also got to remember that's a different time. We are not living in the biblical times. This is for us, for modern times. And while wine is acceptable back then, today, for us, for the Latter-day Saints, we're to stay away from it. It's not good. And I've debated many times. I at one time actually tried justifying the word of wisdom through the Bible. We can't do that. The code of health for the Jews is not the word of wisdom. And the word of wisdom is not the law of health for the Jews. So, for us, stay away from wine. Plain and simple. And don't try and justify the word of wisdom as, or confuse it with the law of kosher. Now, tobacco, I don't hear anyone complaining about this, honestly. In verse 8 it says, and again, tobacco is not for the body, neither for the belly, and is not good for man, but is an herb for bruises and all sick cattle, to be used with judgment and skill. Now, I was reading something earlier. I think it was in the Gospel Doctrine app, where someone observed that when cattle, where is it, are out in the field eating, that someone noticed that the cattle will not go near the tobacco unless they're not feeling well. And this is, remember, this is a pure tobacco leaf. This is not what we have in modern day cigarettes. Modern day cigarettes actually have, I think they said, hundreds of different chemicals in them, including arsenic. I don't know if that's true nowadays. Here it is, Brigham Young. You put cattle in the field where there is tobacco, and you will see none of them eat it unless they are sick. They will take it then, but at no other time. Same thing with horses, ox, sheep. Ordinary health won't touch it. But when they are sick, they will go for it. So, but there's many dangers to tobacco, and I love the fact that the word of wisdom states that, where is it? Here it is, verse 8. I love at the end of this, to be used with judgment and skill. It takes a lot of skill for to be able to use herbs properly. In Chinese medicine, while one single herb can help, will help with a problem. It's usually when you, through skill, you learn how to combine the herbs and use them properly, that you will get a better benefit. So I remember reading, this was probably 15, 20 years ago. Someone took a raw tobacco leaf and put it on an injury of a cow around its leg, and it helped speed up recovery. So that's just one of the anecdotal examples of using tobacco with skill. Okay, and it says it again, hot drinks are not for the body or belly. Now, if you go to gospeldoctrine.com and look, it will actually list several things that are not good for the belly, including, and to get things straight. So when the church talks, this talks about hot drinks, back then the only hot drinks that were available were coffee and tea, and that's what, even today, what the general authorities say that it's meaning here. Today we have other things like herbal tea. In fact, I'm always shocked. So I'll talk to some Philippine ladies and tell them how I love herbal tea, and they're shocked. They're like, but isn't that against the word of? No, it's not against the word of wisdom. I'm always surprised when people think that the herbal teas are against the word of wisdom. Even in the latest topical questions that the church answered, it states herbal teas are good for the body. Now, there are debates about how hot drinks should be taken. There are people that say it's okay if it's cold, like iced coffee. No. I recommend you read the topical discussion with question for the church. It's really good. There are several things about coffee and tea. Now, tea is an interesting one. Tea is defined as anything from the tea plant. This is white tea, green tea, red. I think red tea is also considered in that because it comes from the same plant. And oolong tea and black tea. And what makes them different is the stage of growth that the plant's in. And so, just avoid tea and coffee. But one thing that our detractors like to point out is caffeine is what is being pointed out here. No, it's not caffeine. In fact, there was something, what was it? Someone one time, out of the blue, we were talking about the word of wisdom. It was online, and they put out a hypothesis. Okay? And I want you guys to think about this. What if the word of wisdom isn't so much as a list of foods that are bad for you, but what if it is more of to see if we'd be willing to do those things which God commands? It's a spiritual blessing. Think about that. It's to see if you are willing to be obedient. So next, we go on to herbs. And I love this. I spent many years in my youth studying about herbs and their benefits towards man, just to find out that what I knew paled in comparison with what someone like my boss, who is a Chinese medicine doctor, so he knows all the acupuncture and herbs, and he knows how to put a combination of herbs together that will help most people. Now, why I say most people is because there's some people who knows why that it's not strong enough. There's always a stronger herb that will help someone, but whether their body can handle it or not, that's a different thing. All herbs are good, hath God ordained for the use of man. So one of my favorite, so I talk about having general anxiety disorder. One of my favorite go-tos to help it's a formula called Jai Wei Xiao Yao Wan. And it's formulated to help with reducing stress and anxiety in people. And it is good. When I start getting anxiety attacks at work, I'll just pop 12 pills and throughout the day 3 times, and it starts helping. So it's good for Latter-day Saints to have a knowledge of herbs. Now, one thing is in Doctrine and Covenants section 89, it talks about every herb in the season thereof, and every fruit in the season thereof, all these to be used with prudence and thanksgiving. Now, I used to be one of those people that was die hard the fruit in the season thereof. But then I read this from Dr. John A. Whitsoe, who was an apostle in the mid 20th century. He says this: in the season thereof, cracks are to be found in many places. Such people claim that no food should be eaten unless it's grown in the locality where they live and in season. For instance, people living in Canada or northern United States should not eat raisins, bananas, oranges, or other citrus fruit because they do not grow here. How foolish! If one is to be literal, one should not eat wheat in bread or cereal except in August or September, for this is the only time it is in season. By the same token, nothing should be eaten in the winter months, for nothing is then in season. Wisdom and common sense should protect people from becoming cranks or faddists. I'm not sure what cranks are. Cranks, CRANKS. That's a new word. But when it says in the season thereof, that just means that is when the nutrients in the fruit or the herb or the vegetable is at its peak. Will we receive benefits from eating them outside of season? Yes. Is it okay to eat fruit that doesn't belong to our geographical location? Yes, it is okay. Now, in Chinese medicine, and to be honest, if Joseph Smith knew about Chinese medicine, he would agree with a lot of it concerning the word of wisdom, because it is probably the closest diet to what the word of wisdom is saying. So eat a banana during winter. It's okay. It's healthy. So next, we move to the meat. And this is one that I have received a lot of hate from. In fact, one of the big questions I'm asked is, why doesn't the church focus on things like the meat in temple questions as well as the bad stuff? Well, one, I don't know. I honestly can't answer that. But I do know that I've met people who will not eat meat during summer, and I would love to be able to do that. If I knew how to cook with fruits and vegetables better, I would love to be able to do that, but I can't. So I eat flesh year round. Says, yea, flesh also of the beasts and of the fowl of the air, I, the Lord, have ordained for the use of man with thanksgiving. Nevertheless, they are to be used sparingly. It is pleasing unto me that they should not be used only in times of winter or of cold or of famine. Now, in the past 10 years, I think it is, there's been a movement that's been trying to claim that the word of wisdom is veganism and or vegetarianism. No, it is not. And I will be emphatically about that. The word of wisdom is not veganism. It is not vegetarianism. Those are, I'll just say it bluntly, they're abominations. Yes, they are healthy to eat short term. Remember, again, I'm not a health expert, but I have learned a lot in my life. Earlier in Doctrine and Covenants, let me see if I can find it. Doctrine and Covenants 49:21 says that woe be to the man that wasteth flesh. And that somewhere, I can't remember where. Oh, 1 Timothy chapter 4 verse 3. It says, it's talking about forbidding to marry and commanding to abstain from meat, which God hath, or let's actually go there. Speaking lies in hypocrisy, having their consequences seared. Forbidding to marry, commanding to abstain from meat, which God hath created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believeth and know the truth. For every creature of God is good, nothing to be refused, if it be received with thanksgiving. There's another one that I was looking up. Here it is. Doctrine and Covenants section 49, verse 18. We actually covered this. It says, whoso forbiddeth to abstain from meat, that man should not eat the same, is not ordained of God. So if you have people telling you to abstain from meat because of dietary restrictions, that is not of God. So, can individual people live a vegan life or vegetarian life? Yes. A very good friend of mine is vegetarian. It's her choice, but say if she was to go to like a party where there's meat, she's not going to be all militant about it. Again, I have my boss, his family's going veganism. Not because of animal cruelty things, because of health. It's better health. It is. Living a short-term vegan life or vegetarian life, it's great. Now, let's continue. All grain is ordained for the use of man and beasts, to be the staff of life, not only for man, but for the beasts of the field and fowl of heaven, and wild animals that run and creep on the earth. And these things God made for the use of man only in times of famine and excess of hunger. Now all grain is good for food of man, the fruit of the vine that yieldeth fruit, whether on the ground or above the ground. Nevertheless, wheat is for man, corn for the ox, oat for the horse, and rye for the fowls and the swine. Now there was an experiment done where, and honestly this was an inhumane test. I don't know when it was done. Let me see if I can pull it up. Let's see. The experiment was done by a place called Experiment Station at Madison, Wisconsin. And what they did is let's see, where is it? So they gave corn to chickens, and they found the death rate was higher. And they did the same thing with oats. But when they gave them rye, they were healthier. Now, here's a bit of wisdom. In chickens, you do not give rye to young chicks. It's actually, there's something else that you can give them that's actually healthier for them. So I'm not sure what that is, but it's interesting that people actually experimented on this. I don't think it was right for them to try and use corn and wheat, or not wheat, or oats on chicken that caused them to lose their lives, but it is what it is. Now, the end of this is a diet that every Latter-day Saint should be able to keep. At the end, it says, all saints who remember to keep and do these things, walk in obedience to the commandments, shall receive health in their navel, marrow in their bones, and shall find wisdom and great treasure and of knowledge, even hidden treasure. Then he ends it with verse 20 and 21. And shall run and not be weary, shall walk and not be faint. And I, the Lord, give unto them a promise, that the destroying angel shall pass by them, as the children of Israel not slay them. This is one of the most interesting things I've read. Now, if you've noticed in here, it didn't mention moderation one time, except for eating of the flesh, eating meat. And I experimented a few months ago with creating a diet. So I used AI to help me do this. I used 3 different ones. I used Gemini, Perplexity, and ChatGPT, and I had them compare first if the word of wisdom, vegetarianism, and veganism, and another diet called the starch solution were compatible, and all of them were compatible. Then I had them create a diet that combined all three of them, and in it, the word of, when it came to meat, it recommended during winter, maybe 2 times a week, to have a piece of meat no bigger than the palm of my hands, or a deck of cards. I don't have my cards here, but that is what it suggested. And so I would love, if I had earned enough money and I was smart enough when it came to cooking and grocery shopping, I would love to live the word of wisdom more fully. Until then, I try and eat healthy options when I can. So, all right, brothers and sisters, with that, we come to an end. Thank you for joining me. Remember that I love you. I pray for you guys. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Have a wonderful Wednesday tomorrow. God bless each one.